So
All right, we're recording from here. It's all good. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like such a fool right now. We just had an awesome podcast, but I lost it all. I somehow stuffed up the sound and...
We basically found the meaning to life.
Exactly.
We figured it out.
Exactly.
Now we just forgot it.
We were dropping some serious knowledge about health, science, the meaning of life, and...
Now we'll have nothing but drivel.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, man, but you're gonna have to make do with our second take of this.
That's okay. We can talk about something else. And maybe
Yeah, and it's cool. We're obviously a lot more relaxed this time around, so we can have a more informal conversation, which is what this podcast is about.
What are you talking about? I was relaxed.
Yeah, I'm always hyperactive, so I can't really say the same. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the Crystal Journey podcast. I just had Miguel come down here to drop some knowledge about health and fitness and about Aptech, his amazing company. Unfortunately, we lost all that shit, so take two. We're going at it again, and I'm sure this time your head's gonna record. I triple, quadruple checked it. Let's get this show on the road. I'm gonna get straight into it this time, ladies and gentlemen, freaks and geeks. Let's get this show on the road, yo. Okay, just gonna drop this here.
Now you put water into a cup.
Alright, this time around, I'm gonna start with your feature. Let's give people an idea.
When does it end?
It's kind of weird taking this in for a second time, but it's all good.
Yes.
Alright, I think the audience has had enough of that. I don't think they can handle that awesome physique of yours, bro. It's kind of making me feel as if I'm leaking estrogen right now.
Leaking estrogen?
Yeah, like I'm all effeminated by your manliness. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Miguel Valenzuela. Did I pronounce that right? Valenzuela?
I usually say Valenzuela.
Valenzuela, bro. That's such a tight name. Where are you from? It's
a Spanish name.
Espanol.
I'm Filipino American.
Filipino American.
But grew up in Thailand.
Crazy.
And the Philippines, moved to Australia about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Just to try something different.
All right.
Yeah.
You seem completely Americanized. I'm guessing most people in the Philippines, they have that westernized accent going on.
I think I got my accent in Thailand. I grew up with a lot of Americans, Canadians, people from all over the world. I think that sort of Americanish accent was most dominant, because almost everybody I grew up with, whether they were, Romanian or Mexican or whatever, all had the same accent.
That's crazy, man. Yeah. And how did you develop yourself into this Hulk-like person? Were you born that way, or you mentioned earlier that sometimes it's just genetics, but I'm sure you would have had to work to get to where you're at.
The thing is, I started competitive swimming when I was 13 till 16. And that's a time that your body naturally changes quite a bit. So I don't know if I would say that if I didn't get into swimming, I would have been like a skinny little guy, because I don't know, your body was going to change anyway. So from 16 and onwards, I got into bodybuilding. So I've been bodybuilding for the past 9 years. But if I was to like show my transformation from when I started bodybuilding at 16 to where I am now at 25, I don't think you can take that transformation in that like pubescent age as like something so dramatic,
because that's what naturally was happening anyway.
Yeah, people transform quite a bit when they grow up anyway.
But obviously it's a great thing that you started at that age, because you could have maximized your dividends, I guess, if that's the right phrase to use. But
I think it makes a really big difference when you start at that age.
Yeah, I've heard it's sometimes a bad idea to start doing weights before you hit 18, though. That apparently it stunts your growth. What's the truth behind that?
I can't see any rationale behind that whatsoever, because first off, it increases your bone density, which is chances are you're going to get taller, you're going to get bigger, you're going to be stronger, just from a skeletal perspective. And And then, you get all the good habits of, good work ethic and things like that. The only thing that could really stunt your growth, scientifically speaking, would be calcification of your growth plates.
Yeah.
And that can really only happen with immense weight. Like, we're talking, it's ridiculous weight. Or certain pituitary gland issues. Not really much to do with, regular strength training.
Thanks for dropping that knowledge, bro. That actually makes a lot of freaking sense. And I think to myself that there are all these ideas that you just accept as being fact as you grow up without really questioning them. And one of the things I like to do on this podcast, at least I try to do, is question everything.
You have to
not
question
I'm playing off Joe Rogan's question everything show, but seriously, it doesn't make sense. Fair enough, it would make sense if you were taking drugs, I guess. That might have some...
There are a few drugs that do cause calcification. But for, if you're not taking drugs, if you're, just going to the gym, lifting some heavy weight, whether you're, 14, 15 and up, you'll be fine.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the rewards are far going to outweigh any downsides, if there are any. The discipline, we were talking earlier in the last podcast, we were discussing the meaning of life, about the dividends that you get from doing bodybuilding. It's developing your willpower. I mean, you were talking about the psychological effect of that. Clearly you do get benefits from pushing yourself, overexerting yourself to some extent. But you also get that from, on a psychological level, the fact that you're overcoming this resistance to adversity. And each time you reach your plateau, you create a new plateau, and you just keep on pushing further.
Keep on pushing. Well, yeah. I mean, those are things that can transcend into other facets of life, not just physical bodybuilding or sports or whatever. When you expand your threshold for pain because you keep reaching it and then trying to go a little bit further, those are like some invaluable there are invaluable benefits to that. Like, if you can habitually push yourself to the point of failure, and then you keep going, and then you keep going, and then you do it again the next day, and you just expand your horizons.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's the best attitude to have towards life. That's why I love Elliot Hulse. We were speaking about him, or I was speaking about him earlier. He's this bodybuilder, strongman, intellectual. He's a philosopher that talks about becoming the strongest version of yourself, and how essentially your body grows when you put it through strain. The resistance that you undergo forces you to have to reach a stronger level, and it kind of makes me think of the idea of the greatness lies on the edge of destruction. This is Will Smith's quote, that ultimately you achieve greatness when you are at that point where you're about to break, and you basically do break, and you reform much stronger than you were before, leading you to become a stronger version of yourself.
Yeah.
So essentially, that's what life is about. And you can use that as a metaphor. It doesn't have to be applied directly towards weights. You can apply that same mentality towards going through pain, suffering in life, going through that breakup. I know many people that have had that first relationship. That's usually the one that kills those teens. They never want to open themselves up again. It hurts them. And on some level, provided you haven't committed suicide or something like that, you become more aware. You become wiser. I mean, wisdom is something that unfortunately comes through pain. And I think that is essentially what we're all about: growing, becoming stronger.
Yeah, but speaking of which, and this is something that I was just thinking of just now, progress can sometimes close your mind. And here's my point.
Curious to hear your explanation.
With bodybuilding, a lot of people, they try one thing and they progress. Now, maybe the progress wasn't because of that one thing that they did. Maybe it was in spite of it, or maybe it was just, they were going to progress anyway. But they attribute their progress to that. And then, therefore, when some information comes around that maybe this is not the best way, they close their mind, because it's like, man, you
found something that works for you, and you don't want to open yourself up to anything else because you know that you this
and going back to your point of question everything.
Yeah,
I think that mentally strengthening your ability to think critically, coupled with a strong work ethic, is the key to infinite progress.
Well said, man. I feel like I'm speaking to Bruce Lee right now. And I was saying earlier, you kind of look like Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son. Kind of have that charm about you as well.
But I can't fight.
Oh well, bro, you don't need to. You just intimidate everyone with your big muscles, right? See, this is what black people do. I heard some comedian say this one time, man. A lot of black people just act as if they can't fight, even though they can't, because they kind of you want to fight me? You want something there? I think this is Kevin Hart. You know, he's this little short person. He does this whole you want to fight me? I'll fight me. But obviously, when you have the muscles to add towards that, all you got to do is just go, you know what I mean? And people are like, okay, yeah, sorry, man, I'm sorry, I'm on legally right now. But do you, I mean, outside of the bodybuilding, do you do any other sport? Anything,
No, I'm not really into sports. I'm not really into sports.
Not into sports?
Well, I mean, the things that I'm interested in, I like cinema. I'm very, very into film, particularly... Right now, I really like South Korean films. I find that their cinematography is just unbelievable. Every shot's so inspired. I've become very sick of the
mainstream Hollywood.
Yeah, because it's very formula. It follows a formula.
Very much so.
Formulamatic, but it's
there's very much so. It is. I remember listening to this guy, Brian Callen. He's always recommending this book that's written by one of the best screenwriter in Hollywood, and he has a particular formula for making these movies. And there's a reason why most of the best movies that are made. I could be wrong. This is at least what is coming to. This is in accordance to what Brian Callen is saying. But this guy is saying that most of the best movies from the States, they all follow this formula. And they generally been produced by the same top people, at least the people coming up with the scripts, and there is definitively a formula to writing these movies. And whereas it might not be the most artistic representation of your vision and whatnot, because it's just formulaic. It's you're limiting your creative expression based on what you think is going to be most beneficial towards eliciting excitement in the audience.
Yeah, mainstream appeal, but there's no growth in that.
Absolutely,
it doesn't explore anything new. I like watching a film and being challenged by it.
Yeah.
And like thinking, hey, I didn't like that. Like that upset me. Or, I wasn't expecting to see that. I don't want my hero to always win.
Absolutely.
I don't want the main character to always be likable.
Yeah.
Like, one thing that was so cool about Breaking Bad, for instance...
that was just on the tip of my tongue. I was going to mention that like a split second before you mentioned it.
Yeah, like Walt transformed into something very hateful.
I kind of knew he was a douchebag though within the first few episodes. I just kept. I love that TV show. I just lost mine. You still there?
Oh
just
yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
I think I just. Here we go. Back again. All good.
All right.
Yeah, we're talking about Walt and why we love him or why we don't love him.
Yeah. Well, that's an example of a very good show that I don't think they jumped the shark at any point. Yeah, that made for compelling television. But when I see most like superhero movies or things like, big Hollywood blockbusters,
exactly
it's
what you
like,
mean.
Okay, there's going to be some unnecessary romance here that doesn't add anything to the plot. The hero is going to probably be dressed in black, maybe have an exotic accent or something. Why?
Yeah, I think it relies, even though I was talking about this formula and how good it is, I think it's because one of the problems is sometimes that they're relying too much on the formula. They've figured out that, look, in order for something to work, we need to have this particular type of character, we need to have this particular type of storyline, as opposed to letting something right from the heart.
Yeah.
And another thing I've heard is that, and I know goes on in the music industry, in the entertainment industry, particularly in the movie industry, when a particular vision is coming into play, because you're working with a whole bunch of different people, it's not as if one person's vision has completely been carried out word for word, idea, concept for concept. There are all these other parts that are coming into play, and everyone's adding their 50 cents to the picture, and sometimes it's hard to get a real artistic expression if it's coming from all these different channels. Sometimes I feel as if the best thing to do is allow someone to express his art form, his vision completely, and everyone else just gets in line. But of course, because there's so much money involved, more often than not, the artist, the director like yourself, has to compromise his artistic integrity, man.
Yeah, well, I find that kind of heartbreaking, because You know, like a lot of the stuff that comes out of the big studios, they just end up looking so generic or neutered. Whereas certain directors that I really admire, like Lars von Trier, he has a certain signature to his films. It's very clear that the actors are portraying his vision. He's not laying down for anybody. And he has a lot of very upsetting films, but like that's okay. It's different. It challenges you.
Yeah.
You know, bring that on.
And it's reality. I mean, look, art is different to different people, but I think I hear this so many times that art should reflect real life. At least I find the best art does. As opposed to this made up happily ever after scenario that takes place. And yeah, it makes you feel warm and good, like Disney movies, but it doesn't really capture you the same way.
Yeah.
And I think the best movies are the movies where someone is expressing his experience, his own experience, and you connect with that. It's believable. It's not artificially created.
Yeah, for sure.
Even though obviously you're creating movies, there's nothing real about it.
But there was a distinct vision behind it.
Absolutely.
And, I mean, maybe to segue onto what I'm trying to do with my channel is I'm trying to. Well, before I say this, when you look at people's motivations for doing something, I think a lot of it leads to expression of oneself as a means of achieving self-actualization. You know, putting yourself out there. If you're a singer, you know, putting out your music.
Absolutely.
If you're a filmmaker, you're putting out your films. Even bodybuilding, you're expressing yourself through aesthetics. That might be some people's motivation for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
For me, in putting out this video series that is like pretty much consuming my life right now, it's putting out my vision of bodybuilding to show a different perspective, to show, well, my perspective. And I get a big kick out of that. Like, even when I started making like these little videos of myself way back, I always got a bigger kick out of when people would tell me, "Hey, I like the way you put this together. Like, I like the music that was in
more
it."
so than
More
Prague.
so than-
More so than some hot girl. Look, I know you have a girlfriend, but let's say more so than some girls saying, "Oh man, you have the most amazing. Oh my God, your pictures." Really, more so than that?
Yes,
Come on.
it's always. To be honest, it's true. Like it's always nice to hear compliments on my physique, but it's like that's not my expression. My expression is like the way I portrayed it in this video with this editing, even though back then it was like very juvenile.
Yeah.
I didn't really know much about editing or whatnot. Now I'm taking it a lot more seriously, but when someone say, "Hey man, I love that track that you used,"
Yeah.
like you got me into this kind of music or whatever, man, that
I know,
really
because
good.
Yeah, they're appreciating something which is deeper than this external physical beauty.
Yeah.
It's the same reason why I think a girl would much rather be told that she's beautiful than told she's hot, because when you're saying that she's beautiful, it's a representation of her soul, not just the physical characteristics. But when you're saying that she's hot, it's kind of cheap. It's like, oh,
That's
all
a
right,
good
so you like my
point.
body.
That's a good
But
point.
when someone comments on the way that you present yourself, I think everything that you do is a representation, is a manifestation of what lies within you, what lies within your soul.
Yeah.
And if you express something that connects with someone and they appreciate that, they're connecting with the most inner part of you. And that is far more rewarding than someone saying, "You have a big penis," which of course I love hearing, but let's be real, it's not what life is about, is it?
Yeah, well, could be.
Could be. Yeah. I love hearing Elliot Hulse. I always bring him up. His philosophies on life, and he usually equates how most of life. Actually, I'm not. You know what? I don't want to quote him as saying this. This is pretty much Sigmund Freud's ideas, but I find that a lot of his stuff, Elliot Hulse relates to masculine drive and femininity, the different poles. And I mentioned this earlier about how life. I feel as if it's this. One of the biggest motivations is trying to find a mate. Obviously, trying to be great as well, but even the greatness at times it relates to wanting to propagate. Or I would kind of stop myself from saying that because it sounded so freaking.
No, it's true.
Propagate. Yeah,
multiply.
Absolutely.
Spread thy seed.
Yeah, it seems shallow, but it's true. I think a huge part of the motivation, at least for your typical man, typical teenager, is to go out there and, for lack of a better phrase, to go out there and fuck lots of women.
Well, we're hardwired that way.
Absolutely, and sometimes I think that the way of doing great things, expressing yourself, creating art it's kind of like how a peacock shows its feathers to just show how amazing it is. Hey, all the other peacocks, come check me out. How cool am I?
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
You know what? That does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I hate saying it because I want to sound all
I don't
sophisticated.
I don't think it diminishes one's motivations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just a fact of life. We do want to get laid. We do want to propagate our gene pool.
Mm-hmm.
However, at the same time, it's not. It doesn't necessarily mean that that's the conscious driving factor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, of making art.
Well, here's the thing. It just occurred to me. I'm pretty sure this is the works of someone else, but that drive in wanting to propagate, that is coming from that creative force. I mean, a lot of people look at that sex drive as just being, oh, you're sick. You just want to have sex with lots of girls. Oh, I don't like you. But basically, that same energy is that creative energy, like the want to basically express yourself sexually. I've heard it being equated to that creative drive within you. It's that same energy that drives people to want to create art, to want to express themselves through these different mediums like cinema, music, and whatnot. And maybe at the end of it, even though you're saying you want sex, what you truly want is to create, to express yourself.
Well, it goes to self-actualization, which is like at the highest spectrum of our hierarchy of needs, our hierarchy of non-essential needs. You know, of course, you've got like food, you know, shelter, things like that as what you need to survive. But beyond that, you know, whether it's creating something, whether it's building a body, whether it's building a business or whatnot, it's like saying, hey, look at me. I'm something. I've got something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worth something. This is me. This is my identity. This is what I do. Even when we post on Facebook, you know, like what's the motivation behind
such a good point, yeah,
behind most of the
status updates
statuses that we do.
This is what I'm up to.
It's like, hey, look, I'm not a loser.
Yeah,
I've actually got something going for me. And you know, it sounds a little bit pathetic, but it's not.
It does, but it's kind of true, isn't it?
It's okay. It's like, you know, when you tag that you're at a restaurant, it's like, it's self-serving. It's all self-serving, but I don't look down on that. Like, that's all right.
Yeah, I love the fact that you're able to express yourself honestly like that, because I mean, my biggest thing is, well, the biggest thing I look up to in people is where they're able to express how they truly feel about things without trying to put on this facade of, hey man, I'm truly just a higher being personality. But when someone's able to speak freely about these insecurities that we have, these shallow feelings that they have, you feel more inclined to open up. And I'm really glad that you said that, because it made me realize that, first of all, that is so true, and that I really do that as well. A lot of the times I put things up, my status updates, and like, for instance, I recently put this update about how I was at this really, really cool place on the weekend. Look at me, I'm up there doing cool stuff.
Yeah,
it's
I saw your last post.
Why am I doing that? Why do I need to let people know the shit I'm up to?
Yeah.
And in all honesty, I think it's coming from a place of, not just I want to express myself, but I want to, I think it's coming from a place of ego.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I guess it's not the most it's not the most rewarding thing to do.
Well, it can be, depending on what you value. Like, if you really value that self-image, then by all means do it. But see, here's the trippy thing. The very fact that I said that, like, maybe, hey, one of my motivations for posting up some status of, like, me at a party or something is to say that, hey, I'm not a loser. Me announcing this right here, that might actually serve another self-interest, which is that I'm trying to say, hey, look at me. I'm an honest guy. I'm not a loser. You know what I mean?
You're going deep, son. You were going deep with this.
Going around.
Yeah.
But it's like, who cares?
Yo, I think I'm enjoying this podcast even more than the last one now. We're going to all this philosophical deep stuff, which is what this podcast is about. But absolutely. But I take it you're, rather than just developing your physical body, you seem like a person that's hugely interested in developing the other aspects of yourself. Do you read a lot of philosophy? Do you have a spiritual outlook on things? What's your worldview? I
haven't read a lot of philosophy lately. I like to think that I form a lot of opinions on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that at this stage in my life, I've gotten a lot better at learning how to learn, and that's something that I think is not a lot of people recognize the importance of it. Like, you go to school, you learn all this stuff that you're probably never going to use in life, but you don't look at it as like, hey, this is practice for learning how to learn. Like, this is me learning how to learn.
Absolutely.
Like, you're learning algebra. Like, I've never used algebra
in
real life. The hardest problem that I've ever had to do mathematically is figure out how to split the bill between a bunch of people at a restaurant, you know? But learning how to do algebra, if you understand how to read patterns, that's something that you'll use a lot in life.
Okay.
Learning how to read patterns. But most people don't even identify that pattern recognition is part of learning algebra, so they shut the whole thing off completely, like what I did.
That's a good point. I think what you're talking about is what you would categorize as right brain ability, like this ability to see the full picture, pattern recognition, being able to problem solve. I think that's something that is not addressed much in this society that we have. It's a very left brain society. It's information in, information out. As long as you could regurgitate what we're teaching you 100%, then you'll receive 100% and you're great. And I feel as if the system that we're in at the moment, it's called the suppression of the feminine. It's this esoteric concept that we live in a very patriarchal society where the society that we live in, once again, very left brain, it's more focused on science. It's all focused on the external, creating weapons, destruction, having this very domineering thing. These are the ideas that come to mind when I think of a patriarchal system, a patriarchal religion. If you go back into ancient times where it was more of what you'd call matriarchal society, for instance, ancient Egypt, this was a society that was more about what you're talking about, finding your own truth. Basically, God was a very personal thing. I mean, obviously they had the gods, but the whole approach towards religion was you look within yourself, and this is the characteristic of matriarchal religions, societies that are more run with this feminine right brain ethos, where essentially you were being encouraged to learn things yourself. You're being encouraged to question, to get in touch with your higher self, without wanting to sound like a hippie, but that part of you which is not just limited to this physical. It's more organic. It's more in touch with that which animates, that which causes us to be, as opposed to this computer mentality of just. I mean, I'm not undermining that. It's definitely a very powerful thing. The ability to add and subtract and all that kind of stuff, to regurgitate information, that definitely has its place. Yeah. But I think there is a lot to be said about the other side of things, and I think essentially look at the idea of a genius in your typical IQ setting. It's having a combination of both left brain and right brain attributes. You'll find that a standard IQ test is broken up into what you call crystallized knowledge, which is more of the left brain stuff, and then you got fluidic knowledge, which is more of the right brain stuff, pattern recognition, problem solving, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And essentially, to be a fully whole person, you want to be a synthesis of both modalities. So, but I feel as if the society that we're in now, it's far more encouraging to the left brain modality than the right brain.
Oh, no doubt, because it's easier to identify, where they could put you, where you could be placed, where you could be. Yeah. Where you can go, but the thing is that we, in a free world, we have a choice. So most people don't end up doing what they wanted to do back in high school, back in grade school. What
did you want to do back in grade school? Did you always want to start your own supplement company and become a Hulk-like bodybuilder?
Well, back in grade school, I don't know. I think I just wanted to meet girls. Yeah, that's pretty much all I was thinking about. I think I wanted to be an actor at some point.
Yeah, maybe that is it's slowly kind of coming up. Maybe the film work that you're involved in now is a way of getting in touch with that want that you had back in high school. Do you want to see yourself acting in the future?
I used to. I used to act quite a bit. Like, when I was in the Philippines, I was part of this ongoing TV show, and
crazy, man. What was it called? Can we find this?
Nah, I don't want to say. I don't want to say what it was.
All right, son. I'm gonna have to look you up in my own spare time now.
But it wasn't something that I was proud of because I wasn't really expressing myself.
You were just reading lines. What do you mean?
I didn't think it was a good show. Yeah. But it was a popular show, and it was it paid some money, so that's what I did. But that's one of the reasons why I moved to Australia. Like, I wanted to do something that was me, you know?
Respect, man. Respect. I really like the fact that you said that. One, that it seems as if you're not trying to whore yourself, like myself, in the sense that, look, if I'm on a show that I'm not artistically in line with, it doesn't please my artistic sense. You know how artists always say, well, as long as this, even though it's a naked pornographic movie, as long as it shows my artistic sense and there's something truly beautiful about it and all this kind of stuff. But essentially, they're willing to sell themselves. You know what I mean? I feel as if the fact that you didn't care, the fact that it was a high rating movie.
No, it wasn't my,
because it wasn't allowing you to.
It wasn't my, like, it wasn't me. Like, if I was to meet someone and, you know, say there's some hypothetical scenario where I had to show them who I was in, like, works or something that I did, I'd show them my current series, because, like, that's me. That was, like, I put this thing together. This was my concept. I edited this. I shot it. It's, like, the music choice, everything, like, that's what I'm about. Cool. I wouldn't show them the videos of me training or just, like, bodybuilding pictures of myself, because, like, that's not me. That's not my expression. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm proud of my physique, but it's not my driving factor.
The tough thing, though, as an artist, I sound really as if I'm up myself and shit like that, but I feel as if one of the difficulties is you really want to get yourself out there. I often say that there are not many, if any, artworks where the artist hasn't signed their signature on the art, because they want to be known. They want to get recognition for what they're doing. So one of the difficulties as an artist is to, yes, be able to express themselves and have their expression fully understood, but you also want to sell shit. You also want to get exposure. You want to be noticed. And part of me leans towards, at least initially, wanting to get my stuff known so that I can at least be in a position where I can reach more people and then be able to express myself as honestly as I can.
Oh, for sure.
And it's tough because I speak to a lot of people and they say that, look, if your work is not completely your own expression, then why are you doing it anyway? I mean, why do you want to get in a show like The X Factor or The Voice, where you have to sell yourself, you have to conform to doing something that you don't necessarily want to do? And a lot of people don't realize that you have to compromise the kind of music that you want to do all the times, because they have an idea of what you are and what you need to do. And it applies to a lot of these reality TV shows. And people often do them because they realize the only way to get themselves out there is to whore themselves on some level, so they can, and I shouldn't use the word whore, but realistically, you're compromising something in order to do something else, and that's all I mean by that.
Yeah, sometimes you have to
do what you got to do before you can do what you want to do.
It's a path to something else.
Yeah, it's a tough one. Do you? I mean, I love when I said I love the fact that you basically compromise. I mean, you wanted more to express yourself than you cared about the fact that it was being viewed by lots of people. I
do definitely want a lot of people to see what I do. However, there are certain things that would probably bring up the viewership that I'm not going to do.
Okay.
That, like, maybe, and I'm not saying that I'm not ever going to do this, like, maybe I'll change my mind, but, like, a lot of people suggested to do, like a chess day with one of these athletes, and, you know, they're known for that body part, so do that. It's generic to me. Like, it doesn't excite me. The idea of actually doing it, of actually putting time into making it, makes me sick, to be honest. I know it sounds extreme, but it's like, I put a lot of work into my videos, but I don't care, because, you know, 300 hours of staring at the screen and, like, trying to figure out what I want to do, it's okay, because I know I'm creating something that I'm going to be proud of, you know?
Absolutely.
But if I was spending all this time creating something that I'm not going to be proud of, that it's like I'm not doing anything. I'm just wasting time. It's soul sucking. You know.
You know, I asked you a while back, what was your biggest passion? You know, out of the movies, the company Aptech, I think it's called, Aptech. And bodybuilding. And it's clear to me, listening to you talk, the passion you have when you talk about your filmmaking, the resilience you have in not wanting to compromise your artistic ethos is, yes, I like using big words like that. Makes me sound like all intelligent shit. I think it's powerful, man. I really respect that, and I think without a doubt that's your passion. And everything else is fantastic, but would you say that is your main? If you could not compromise one thing, it would be the film work?
Self-expression, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's So basically, we haven't narrowed it to the one thing yet. Do you feel as if you love them all equally? The bodybuilding, the filmmaking, and your company, which we haven't really gone into on this podcast.
It's hard, but at this point in time, I think like I'm really passionate about making these videos.
Okay.
But like that could change. Like I'm really passionate about my company.
Well, once again, let's talk a little bit about that. So, AbSec, right?
Okay. Well, to summarize things, it's a supplement company I started about a year ago. We sell products that firmly believe in, based on science, based on all of the research that we've seen at an affordable price, and we don't bullshit. We don't bullshit people. We'll sell something for a purpose that it's been studied to do, and we hope that people, will buy it and support what we're trying to do here. We have the potential to launch a ton of products, but we're taking it slow because, we want to keep it. We want to keep the control. If you want a company to grow really big, really fast, you do need a lot of investors, and you lose a bit of creative flexibility.
I understand
control.
that.
Yeah, that's something
awesome.
that, as much as possible, I don't want to compromise. I might have to at some point. Like, I've accepted that, but I'm happy that I've gotten this far and haven't gotten bankrupt, because it's very difficult.
So you've obviously had to invest.
I haven't taken out any money from my company. Everything has gone back in.
All right.
I'm lucky to have like some savings from my previous job.
Good man. So you're doing this full time at the moment. This is your baby.
This and making videos.
Okay, and I mean, how else are you fueling yourself? Are you making enough money in order to stay afloat with this business?
Yes and no. It's funny because like I've never really worried about money. I grew up in a missionary home. We had no concept of money.
Wow.
I had to kind of figure all that out.
When you say missionary home, I'm not sure if I fully understand that.
Okay, well, that could be a...
I mean, I think missionaries, and you obviously missionaries that knock on your door.
Yeah, well...
And I actually know that different missionaries that go out in the world and help people, right?
Yeah.
What's a missionary home exactly?
Well, it's a bunch of different cultures, kids, adults, and we just live together.
In the same...
Yeah, and then we just, witness to people. It was a Christian thing. I mean, I'm not Christian anymore, but
okay. And
like,
your parents?
Oh yeah, they were in it too.
Cool, man. So you got to grow up with a whole bunch of different.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Bro, this is gonna sound crazy and completely dissimilar from mainstream. Let's raise kids and stuff like that. But I think that is the perfect setting. I'm a big fan of Utopia. It's this book. Yeah. It's kind of like Plato's Republic, and one of the ideas in it is this collective of people where you don't have families as such. Basically, everyone is taking care of each other. It's a real society. It's a real social gathering where, let's say this is how it was set up back in ancient times with tribes and things like that. Let's say you have sex with a girl and you get her pregnant. You don't have to worry necessarily about having to completely take care of that kid. The tribe, the elders of that entire tribe, most likely going to take care of the kid because they have to have more free time, and that's just what happens. I mean, you're all looking out for each other. You as a member of that tribe is probably going to have to go out and hunt some animals and stuff like that and bring it to the tribe, but you're all working together. It's more of a community setting, and I like that whole setting where everyone is kind of working together, and it's more like a big communal. That's what I get when you tell me you lived in a missionary home.
There's a lot to it. If I was to really get into it, it'd be like a whole episode or something. But
bro, that's juicy stuff. At least tell us a bit about it. I mean, was it hard in some ways?
I don't know. I left when I was pretty young, but
okay.
It's everything's self-contained. You're homeschooled. Everybody kind of cooks. You can like get sent to different countries and stuff.
Wow.
Hanging out with like all these different kids.
That sounds absolutely awesome, man. I wouldn't have mind signing up for one of these missionary schools. You get to fly off to different parts of the country and parts of the world.
Yeah, do end up going lots of different places just for different reasons.
And you go to another missionary home and
there's
meet different people.
Like homes everywhere.
Yeah, I think it increases your world. And what I mean by that is that people that only confine themselves to, let's say, a particular community. Let's say if you're brought up as a as a Catholic or as an atheist or something like that, and you only associate with those people, it's kind of restricting your worldview. But
it does restrict your worldview a lot.
True,
like,
but in the sense that I feel as if the fact that you're getting to live in an area with all these different people. But they're obviously all Christians, so I guess it kind of limits your...
there's pros and cons. Like, there's no individuality.
There's no individuality?
You have to give that up.
Take that back. All right.
Yeah, you have to give that up. There's no individuality. It's a hive mind kind of thing. But I was lucky. I had a good childhood. I left when, before it was too late.
What do you mean before it was too late? You look at it, I get the impression that you think of it as a bit of a bad...
Well, I look at it this way. There are certain values that become instilled in you at a young age.
That's true.
I think I left before that young age section was up. So I still got to learn other values. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like that quote from the Jesuit priest, give me a child until he's 6 or something like that. And I can't remember the phrase, but basically I'll give you... the idea is that you'll be brainwashed at that stage, and it's very hard to change those patterns. If you've taken a child at a very early age and you've indoctrinated them with this mindset, after that, it's very hard for them to change this basic blueprint.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's what came to mind.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, I had a great childhood. Got to meet a lot of interesting people. Lived in some cool houses. Yeah, and then left, and then had to adapt to the real world, that was the hard part, because you can be like a weirdo.
Yeah. You seem the exact opposite of that, man. You seem like a real social.
I've had a lot of time to sort of adapt.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it's interesting, the transition. It was a very long time ago. I'm surprised I remember a lot of it, but I think it still had a lot to do with who I became as a person.
Yeah, I think it's very cool when people have a different upbringing outside of the social norm, because it creates different people, and I think
for sure,
individuals are what the world needs. Sheeple. I mean, you look at people that actually did great things in this world, and I mean, the reason they stood out so much is the fact that they had a different mindset. Yeah. They did different things. They were brought up in a different way. And whereas you come up from this upbringing, which I still don't think is the typical.
No, it's definitely not the typical.
Absolutely.
But
I mean, it's obviously a Christian mindset. Most people in the world are Christian. But the fact that you were brought up in missionary homes, in a missionary home, and so forth, it gives you a very different upbringing.
Yeah, I think. Because after I left, I went to mostly international schools, and so there you're finding people who grew up in different environments as well, and multiple environments at that. And I think for the most part, most of these kids end up being quite a bit more mature, because they've had the experience to experience different environments, and they figure out what they get an idea of what works for them, what they like, what values they want to
absolutely
follow. So
yeah, that's my general philosophy in life. Try different things, find what works for you, add your own. It's kind of like Bruce Lee's philosophy in Jeet Kune Do. Take what works for you, throw away what doesn't, that kind of thing. And Paisan, I think we reached another hour mark with this. This would have been 2 hours if we kept the last podcast. But you know what? I'm kind of glad in a way that it kind of stuffed up, because we got to talk about some really, really cool stuff and delve into who you really are as a person. And Paisan, I think you're freaking kick-ass. I love what you do. I look forward to seeing more of your videos.
Awesome.
And I may have to go check out join the gym with you sometime, man. Buff out so your hulkness can rub off on me. I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, you can check out Miguel Valenzuela's website. I'm going to put that down over here. Do you want to give that out to everyone?
Put my Facebook up.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to connect with people from there.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'll put that up there. And this is the Crucial Journey podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out. Keep it real. Don't drive in text. Be sure to share the frack out of this thing. And yeah. Ow. Okay. And this over here.
You put water into a cup. It becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle. It becomes the bottle. You put in a
this
teapot,
better say. I'm sure it did. I hope so too.